you don't have to bite anymore on that temptation to judge yourself. It's not from God. It's not from God. You're going to be okay. Your nervous system will calm down, recover. You can come back into a state of rest and digest. Walk out your freedom in Christ. Hi friends, it's Bri Katrin. This is my third video in December that I'm doing. Welcome, welcome. I'm so excited that we're getting to talk about the season of Advent, the waiting of the arrival of our Lord and Savior. It's such a wonderful time of year. And yes, I'm making a video outside in December and I love it. My hands are frozen. So if you don't know me, by the way, my name is Bri Katrin. I love to help people heal. Really walk closer with the Lord and walk out a chronic illness journey to freedom, to health, to wholeness, to peace, to life. I have my own tremendous story of how the Lord has done miraculous things in my life to free me from severe illness, bring me to Him first of all, and then free me from severe illness. So I love to be able to help people. And I do individual coaching for people who are already in their brain retraining journeys. I also can teach my program, individually, but I have my own neuroplasticity, Christ-centered neuroplasticity program for healing, and as well as group coaching classes. So I've got lots of things. So if you don't know me and you're here somehow landed on my page, you didn't know that this exists, and you're like, whoa, this is something I've been sort of interested in wondering about. Brain retraining, it's awesome. Limbic system rewiring. You can check way more out at my website, brikatrin.com. And obviously, please check out my videos. I've got tons and tons of free content. Okay, so this video, again, is number 3 of a series this month. I decided to kind of skip the blog this month. And so I've already done 2 videos. If you want to, please go back and watch them. In fact, some of this one might be a little bit of an overlap with the other ones, at least a little bit. But I thought that this would be a really, really important way to speak some things out pretty poignantly. So I thought about doing a number of things in this video, but realized, goodness me, Bri, you always think you can do more than you can in about 20 minutes, and then they end up being 30 minutes. So here we go. So the topic is, I wanted to share, based on my own journey, and also just my coaching, one right now temptation. I want to share another one in another video, to watch for when you're in this season of waiting, to be receiving the promises of God. You're seeking Him, and you're waiting for His promises to come to pass in your life. So what are the key temptations that comes up in the middle, in this period between deciding, yes, I'm going to follow Jesus, I'm going to go this way with Him, and maybe you've also sought doctors, and that's totally fine. And now in between actually seeing it come to pass, or fully actualizing the full freedom of that. Maybe you've seen some improvements, but you're not quite there, and you feel stuck. So, let's go. What is it? What am I gonna say? Okay. Make sure I'm going through my notes to make sure that I don't miss some things I wanted to say. Okay, so I think the biggest temptation that comes in, so if you've been seeking the Lord, okay, this is a question for yourself. If you have your heart turned, and by seeking the Lord, I mean that you're continually turning your heart to Jesus, you're coming to Him, you're believing or wanting to believe that He is your healer, that He's going to take care of you, that He's your provider, He really is who He says He is. And you're doing your best at this. You might not be perfect, but you certainly have your heart turned towards God. So one of the biggest things that people do, even when they're in this position, is they start judging themselves for how much you trust God, how much you're judging your own faith, and you're judging your obedience. So really your trust, your faith, your obedience. And you're like, well, isn't that a good thing? I want to shore these things up. I want to get better at this. I want to walk in the Lord. I want to get all the doubt out of there, all the fear, all that anxiety. I got to get it out. And I'm not saying that's a bad goal to have, but because Jesus does tell us to have faith, right? And he says, oh, you have little faith. Or he says to the centurion, how I haven't seen faith like this in all of Israel. So he's like, he's rejoicing over faith, and he's upset when, or saddened, if you will, when people don't have faith. So we know that faith is a thing. It's a real thing. It's our trusting confidence in who God really is. So I want to help unpack this a little bit, because it really is, I believe, and it's biblical, and I'm going to bring up some scriptures here to help us, that we really are often can be having a hard time receiving healing from God when we are judging our own faith. And you might not even realize that you're doing it. Okay, so basically what I mean by that is that you're evaluating or judging, again, judging yourself, evaluating without it just being curiously observing it. And so there's a critical side to this. And you're saying things like, gosh, like, I've got so many doubts. I've got all this fear. I've got all this worry. I've got all this anxiety. I'm not trusting God. Like, I'm trying to do these things and it's not happening. And I know that it's because I'm not trusting God. I mean, I know I've been through all of this. I've analyzed my faith. I've gone through all of this stuff, and certainly can land you in a place where you are trying really, 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 really hard. And it feels really, really frustrating because it feels like nothing's really happening. So all that doubt, that anxiety, what starts to happen is you start to become fearful of your own doubts, worry, anxiety, fearfulness, stress, which is stress, but you become fearful of it because you're judging yourself from it. You're like, I got to get it out. And you're seeing it, become super self-aware of it. And guess what that does? It actually turns on those alarm bells in your brain even more that are already stressed out, and it's keeping them running as we're looking and analyzing critically and judging ourselves. So we don't want to have a judgment of having a lack of faith. So that's what I'm here to tell you, is that the things that are coming up, the fear, the anxiety, the doubt, the worry, and more that we're going to talk about, you gotta stop judging yourself for having a lack of faith. Your heart is turned towards God. You're doing all the things that you know to do. You're seeking Him. You're listening to others. You're being willing to hear what they have to say, and you're trying all that you can. But what's happening is that the stress response in your nervous system, in your limbic system, through your autonomic nervous system, is constantly on right now. And it's like an alarm that won't go off. And so when someone is in a state of alarm protection, they're becoming really, really aware. And obviously they're going to start to have sort of like pay attention to things and start to, even in a sense, sort of like, ooh, should I do that? Should I not? There's like a hypervigilance. There's a vigilance with it. There's a protection. There's a guarding. And it can certainly bring up all kinds of questions of like, is this really safe? Is it really okay? And then start to have doubts even of like, I'm not really sure this is okay. That's a very normal thing when somebody's in this sort of a state. And so it's important to see that like, oh, these are symptoms. So my feelings of fear, my feelings of worry, of doubt, of unbelief, those are symptoms. They're symptoms of a chronic stress response that needs to be turned off. So that's why brain retraining, if you're not already brain retraining, in a structured way, in a structured program, which I have one, by the way, I'm not the only one, but I do have one with the Lord, is so, so helpful, because we want to start driving changes in the body, in the nervous system, to bring that state down. And guess what happens? You're going to have a heck of a lot less fear, worry, anxiety, and doubts. But if you're already doing brain retraining and this is happening, and you're still kind of in this stuckness, it's likely because you are judging yourself almost like a personality flaw, like, I really suck at this, I'm not good enough, I got to get better, highly critical, and really trying really, really hard. And you're seeing this as like a faith crisis in your heart towards God, rather than, oh, it's a system spewing out a lot of alarms when it doesn't need to be. And that completely turns this whole story around to help to see that, oh my goodness, the way forward is different than the way that I've been going, because I've been trying my best to overcome that fear, overcome that doubt, overcome that anxiety, get above it, get above it, get above it. And now I can see that my system needs to, and these things can start to go down. So how does the system start to go? Well, if it is that you've been judging yourself a lot, and I know I've been here, I often catch myself doing it still. Well, Bria, you're a teacher. You should be better than that by now. You've been walking for how long with the Lord? Gosh, you've overcome this before. Why are you struggling in this way? Whatever it is. Okay, so if that is you, then I'm telling you that judgment needs to be replaced. We need to curiously observe the ways in which we are judging, and we need to replace it with self-compassion. So I forgot to say this. I wanted to say this, that a chronic stress response, not only are you now, if you're judging yourself, well, if you have a chronic stress response, then you probably have a high level of worry, anxiety, depression, doubts, and or other things. So it can look different in other people, because some people end up, maybe you're not feeling all that anxious or depressed, but you've got other things going on, which you're also judging yourself for, because some of these are actually sin. So things like addictive behaviors, like gluttony, lust, sexual lust, anger, rage issues, greed, envy, comparing, arrogance, jealousy, timidity. I'm not saying timidity is necessarily a sin, but I'm just saying there's lots of things in here. Self-centeredness, because when somebody's system is, let's just say, jacked up right now in chronic fight or flight or in the freeze, there's very much a high degree of self-centeredness because you're in a self-protective state. All of us have the capacity to go here. It's a God-given thing in our bodies to go there. But when a system's regulated, we go in and out when we get into some of these places. A system that's stuck is stuck in this. And unfortunately, in the Christian world, you're going to have a lot of people who do not understand this and are judging you and have really loaded judgment on top of you. And you've received it because, well, they know. And yeah, I know, that is the truth. I do have doubts. I do have anxiety. I am self-centered. I am prideful. I am all of these things. So interestingly, as I came to the Lord, and I put this in a video already, and I'm trying to just stress this over and over because I think it's something so key, that because I didn't come from a background in the Christian faith, there's nothing wrong with that. That's amazing. I really wish that I had the Lord in my life before whatever age I was 6 years ago. What is that? I'm 42. I just turned 42. 36? Wow. I was that young? Holy smokes. Anyway, am I doing the math right? Okay. So anyway, I was saying this before, that because of that, I didn't come with this sort of stigma around my behaviors and seeing them as sin and really feeling guilty about them. I mostly just justified myself in everything, which is not right either. I'm just going to get to the scripture that I want to get to. But anyway, gosh, I got to hurry, don't I? Yep. So the point is, though, that, man, so many Christians end up in this place because of, oh, wow, I see the sins. I see these things. I'm not supposed to be doing them. If I really have a heart towards God, I'm not going to do them. He's telling me not to do them. I'm struggling in this area, and down goes the heart into a place of guilt, into shame. Maybe not. Okay, guilt into shame, especially condemnation, and then those are really, they're disease causing, and they're really causing that nervous system to be in a state of self-protection. I mean, it's painful to feel those things. Those are hard emotions to feel, and we certainly don't want to feel them. This is why I'm at a young age, I was shutting that off and ignoring it and searing my conscience. Anyway, so you cannot judge your own heart towards God right now. That's my whole point. In fact, none of us really ever can. And those are some of the scriptures that I wanted to bring in. But especially right now, it's very, very tempting as you're going through this journey. You're probably hearing a lot of teachings out there, and especially in some of the charismatic world that does believe in healing, and they don't mean to, but they can certainly throw some heavy judgment on you as you feel like, oh gosh, it's my unbelief. Oh gosh, I got to stop doing this. Oh my goodness. And because it isn't God, and that's true. And so then we turn around, well, then who is it, right? Not understanding this whole piece with the body. And I don't have a ton of time to go into all of it today, but I wanted to share 1 Corinthians 4:13. So not 1 Corinthians 4:13, 1 Corinthians 4:3. This is Paul. But with me, it's a very small thing that I should be judged by you or by a human court. In fact, I do not even judge myself. For I know of nothing against myself, yet I am not justified by this. So he's not justified by his own, I guess, inability to find anything to judge himself of. But he who judges me is the Lord. Therefore, judge nothing before the time until the Lord comes, who will bring to light the hidden things of darkness and reveal the counsels of the heart. So he will reveal the counsels of the heart. Then each one's praise will come from God, which is so cool, because the reality is the righteous judgment of God is everyone's gonna be like, oh, that's good. That's so good. Whatever it is, it's good, because God's that good. So he's saying here, like, I can't even judge myself, even if I think that that everything's good. I actually can't judge myself. So we cannot judge ourselves. We need to come to self-compassion. The other verse I wanted to bring up is Romans 2:15. Just this one part where it says, well, the verse before says, for when Gentiles who do not have the law by nature do the things in the law, these also not having the law, the Gentiles, are a law to themselves. They're a law to themselves, who show the work of the law written in their hearts. And between themselves, their thoughts accusing or else excusing them. So we tend to, especially with faith, actually, think about it, we either excuse ourselves and we're like, no, I've got faith. That's not what it is. We just kind of ignore that. It's like, it's not about that. Or we accuse ourselves. I don't have enough faith. It's like, I suck at this. Look at, I can't judge, I can't trust God. Like I've got all these doubts, I've got all this fear. I'm constantly struggling with this. Like, what's wrong with me? So all that is to say, we cannot judge ourselves. We know that God talks about how compassion heals. Jesus heals with compassion. He had compassion on the woman, the widow whose son had died, and they were carrying him in a coffin. I love how it says how he came over. He said he had compassion. And then he came over to the coffin as they're standing there, and they stood still. And then he told the man to arise, and he sat up in his coffin. I'm just like, Lord, you're just so good. Like, can you imagine being there for that scene? I just love it. Anyway, okay, so if you are stuck in certain loops, again, I've said some of them already, but they're patterns, they're thoughts, emotions, behaviors, but also having symptoms in your body. Oftentimes these are linked to some of these things, even like judging yourself. They're not entirely directly, connected to what's going on in the body. And yet, because of it coming from a chronic stress response, all kinds of things can happen in the body. But if you're already doing a brain retraining program like the one that I have, then it could be that you're simply being way too critical of yourself. And you need to learn to become the curious observer, to love yourself, have self-compassion. And, okay, I don't want to say that part. What I wanted to say is that if we continue to judge ourselves as unfaithful and not trusting God, then we actually don't open the door to healing what lies beneath that. And the nervous system won't go into a rest and digest, because there is a pain down there that needs healing, a wound that needs healing. And it's affecting the way that we filter and perceive things, such that our interactions in this world now become stimulated with fear, stress, guilt, shame, and judgment. So we need healing in there, which the Lord brings, so they can turn off that fight or flight response. And trust me, it's much easier to have obedience to the Lord, feel like you can trust him, when your system isn't like churning, isn't just going, that chronic stress response. Okay, so if you aren't sure that you're judging yourself about your faith, because sometimes this is actually really hard to see. It is actually, in the different ways that it can show up. First of all, I'm here, and that's what I love to do, is to help people, because I've been through a lot of this stuff. So I'm like, I can see it like curiously and love people, because I know how hard this is, like really hard. But one place you can look is this, if you're not 100% sure, is if you find that you're not sure that you're judging your own sort of obedience, faith, and trust, because there's a place for recognizing, right? and to say like and curiously observe it. But if you're not sure, then you can ask, am I seeing pitfalls a lot in other people, like in their faith walk? Am I looking at someone else's faith walk and I just see a lot of the ways in which they're not trusting God, and they're not walking by faith, they're not really being obedient? Um, or maybe the reverse is that I'm feeling condemned or judged by someone else's faith walk. Like they make it look so easy. Gosh, like I feel like they're judging me the way that they are. Just, they might not even be saying it. In fact, you might feel like you're being judged a lot by other people. That's a good sign that you actually judge yourself pretty critically. Um, yeah, so those are some of the things you can start to look for. And then usually that means, I'm not gonna say always because I'm not God, but usually that does mean that you are ultimately judging yourself. Someone else's faith walk should be an encouragement to us. I have two people in my life. I'm not gonna be able to, because video is already getting kind of long, but Andrew Womack is such an encouragement to me because I look at the ways that he has like followed Christ for so long, and he continues to trust God and abide in Him and let go of how the things need to happen. And then his ministry and the Bible college and all these things, like, yep, they happen. It's so precious and so beautiful, and there's so much humility in him. And so his faith walk has definitely been an encouragement to help me see, like, oh wow, like, yeah, there's room for more. Like I can be freer and I want to do these things for God consistently and, live this way. And it's just going to become more and more possible. My other one is very personal, and that's my best friend, Rachel. And it's because she knows how to love and be a friend. And I have been so blessed by her faith walk, especially towards me, and learning and being able to receive that and say without judgment, okay, I'm not as good of a friend as her. I want to be. And she encourages me, not out of guilt, to be a better friend, but to say like, okay, wow, like this is amazing. Like I'm going to learn how to do this. And she's been such a beautiful encouragement for me. And I could go on with all kinds of stories about that, but there could be a point where I would, oh gosh, like I feel guilty. Now I gotta guiltily like respond in this way, or gosh, I really suck at this, or, or even like, what's wrong with her? Like she's like really loving on me. Is she super needy? Like I've gone through these things before and realizing, no, that's a very secure person who's willing to put themselves vulnerable and get hurt and give love. And it's a beautiful, beautiful walk that I've learned to be like, I want to do that too. So I am doing it. I'm learning to do it. I'm not perfect, but I'm growing in that. Okay, so the key, this is so key, what I'm saying right here. And you do need a framework, right? So if you're not brain retraining already, please trust me and check out mine or other brain retraining programs that are out there to see if there's one that speaks to you. Because it is a beautiful grace gift from God for our time to help us with a chronic stress response that is just super addictive, by the way. But anyway, again, and if you do already have one, and you can start to curiously observe yourself and start to practice compassion in all the parts of your program, as well as cue safety that this isn't a faith crisis. Because there's a huge fear that can start to come up. Oh my gosh, like really struggling in my faith. I feel like I'm going to lose Jesus, like Jesus. And it can make you feel really anxious and try to anxiously grab and attach. And oh my gosh, I got to do more, and strive. So cue safety that this is not a faith crisis. Your faith isn't like, you're not losing your faith. It's okay. It's cross-wiring in your nervous system. And these doubts, worries, the shame, the guilt, even the sin, the behaviors, the patterns, they will go down. It's cross-wiring in your nervous system. Yeah, the enemy has infiltrated your understanding around all of this over time. That's what he does to us. So I'm helping to set you free from that, to see that you don't have to bite anymore on that temptation to judge yourself. It's not from God. It's not from God. You're going to be okay. Your nervous system will calm down, recover. You can come back into a state of rest and digest. Walk out your freedom in Christ. It sounds super easy, I know. It's not. It takes time, but you will get there. Lastly, I have a new acceptance and surrender meditation that I've put up. that with Jesus, and I thought about it specifically, and I did start with compassion in it because I really hope that will help some people who are struggling around exactly what I'm talking about right now, which is that sort of fear of my doubts, of my unbelief, of my anxiety, of my fear of my depression, of my sin, of, you know, and the symptoms too, so that we can have compassion, acceptance, and surrender, and then redirect so that the Lord can come in. Because when we are weak, He is strong. So definitely check that out. I hope it blesses you guys. If it does, please let me know. And any ways that I can improve things, because I am learning so much when people will share and give me feedback. I really want to be able to help people get whatever they need. So please, please, please share. In fact, someone told me, "Can you stop swinging on your wing?" I'm like, "Oh, I hope I did it this time." Like it's really hard for somebody who's got certain symptoms. Like, oh, that makes sense. Anyway, I love you guys, even if I don't know you. I hope this is a blessing for you guys. And again, as always, please hit share, subscribe, like, come to my website, BriKatrin.com, get on my weekly emails as well. And please stay updated, because there's always things that the Lord is having me impressing upon me to share, to put out there, just to help others be set free. Okay, God bless.